Despite everything we're hearing online about quitting your job, becoming an entrepreneur, millions of people are still building meaningful careers, creating massive impact, and thriving inside organizations. So today, we're going to flip the script.
The top one reason why you may want to stay in your job right now is that it's an extremely hard economy. You have consistency, you have a paycheck, you have insurances, you have all of that stability.
Freedom and boundaries are two separate things. If you love what you do, why would you do something else?
AI could actually make your corporate job a lot easier. From 80 hours, it became 30 minutes.
What if the people who thrive in the AI era aren't the ones who's choosing sides at all? Welcome back to another learning session here at Lumpia Bytes. So last episode, we made a case for why this might be one of the best times in history to start a business. If you haven't watched that episode yet, don't miss it. But here's the question. What if staying in corporate is actually the smarter move? Millions of people are still building meaningful careers, creating massive impact, and thriving inside organizations. So today, we're sharing our top 5 reasons why staying in your corporate career in the age of AI might be the best decision you can make. Mooch, welcome back.
Hi, Hooray Food! Hi, Lumpia Biters! Wala pa tayong name, no, for our listeners. Lumpia Nights, Lumpia Biters. Hi, guys.
I
Welcome to
like that.
Lumpia Bites.
If you have any suggestion for the name, right, let us know.
Lumpia listeners.
Lumpia
Hi,
listeners.
Lumpia listeners. Welcome to Lumpia Bites.
I think I like the lumpia biters. Like biting. So today is going to be an exciting episode. We're going to the other side, right? Why they should stay in their corporate career in this age of AI. What do you think is the number one reason why they should consider staying in their corporate career today?
Oh my gosh. This is what I tell people who wants to start a business now and who kind of romanticize the life of an entrepreneur. I love being an entrepreneur, but I also love being an employee. And the top one reason why you may want to stay in your job right now is that it's an extremely hard economy. You know, sometimes being in corporate is a gift because then you just wait for your salary, you just wait for the annual performance review, you get to live your life outside of the office. In a corporate job, you have consistency, you have a paycheck, you have insurances, you have all of that stability that you could just take a vacation, not think about your work, and then come back to your work.
I think my take on this is stability is underrated until you don't have it because the small perks at work, like having health insurance, right? 401k matching, time offs, bonuses, all those small things, it adds up. And you'll only realize the value of it sometimes when it's gone, right? One of my favorite saying here is from Dr. Seuss. It's in one of my social media accounts. It's a headline always that you'll never know the value of the moment until it becomes a memory. So sometimes you'll never know the value of all these small perks in your job after you leave job. In Mooch, it's a gamble, right? Putting up a business, it's a gamble. I mean, you can't remove the risk, right? There's always unexpected expenses,
For sure.
unpredictable revenue, no guaranteed paycheck. Even if you try to be data driven in the business, follow the best practices, right? There's still a lot of factors that's not in your control, right?
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
entrepreneurship, there's a huge upside, but it's not for the faint of heart. Right? So,
Big risk,
uh,
big rewards, right?
yeah. Yeah. And your corporate career, even if you get laid off, let's say, right? If you already built a foundation, you can always find something, right? You've already built that foundation, that experience. So for some people, that's still more stable, more certain, right? Because they can still find something because they're already experienced rather than starting a whole new business where sometimes you don't know anything about it. You can start from scratch, and that's unstable, that's uncertain for some. So these are the things that you have to consider.
For sure. Because when you're an employee, the risk is with the business owners. The risk is with the people who own the business. And you as an employee, you have certainty, you have a paycheck, you have your annual performance review, you're done. But the entirety of the risk is with the owners of the business, the ones who hold equity in the business. But when you're but when you're an entrepreneur, that's all on you.
There's one thing in entrepreneurs, the business owners. I feel like some of them they really love risk, right?
I would totally agree. I would say that entrepreneurs aren't the smartest people, but they're the most risk taking people. I honestly think that if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be probably 51% stupid sometimes. I just watched the speech of Mayor Mandani, and it's a 0.4% chance of making it that gets an entrepreneur really, really high. Whereas an analyst, a really smart intellectual being would look at the 99.6% and say, "You're freaking crazy. Why are you doing this? This doesn't make sense." An entrepreneur looks at, but there's a 0.4% chance of us making it, and that's a huge chance of making it.
Agree. Totally makes sense. I love that. Um, how many percent is that? 0.4%.
0.4%. It's not even 4%. It's 0.4%.
Okay, let's go, Knicks.
What do you think, Fush? What's a second reason why you should stay in your corporate career?
You actually love what you do. You find purpose at work, and you just genuinely love your team. You love everything at your work. I mean, not everything, but you love what you do, right? I mean, if you love what you do, why would you do something else, right? So I think not a lot of people find purpose at work, but if you're one of them, then I think you just might stay, right?
That's usually probably like a high performance team or a team with you have psychological safety with, and you feel safe in your team, you have fun with your team, and you love what you do, and you love the things that you achieve with your company, with your organization, with your team. And why rock the boat when you already are happy there? Because that is rare.
I think there was a survey that was done, right? A lot of people are really just after a paycheck, right? But if you're someone who truly loves what you do, that's really, really amazing. And another point I wanted to mention is that's why leadership right now is very important. Because imagine those people, right, who love what they do. Sometimes they leave work because of the boss, not because of the work. So
That's
if
true.
you're a leader right now, especially in this really changing, shifting world, and if you have people who truly love what they do, but because you handled it very poorly, or because you're not looking after the people, it's just if it's just total mess, people are gonna leave not because of their work, but because of their boss.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So, Mooch, what's another reason? What's our top three reason on why they should stay in their corporate career in the age of AI?
When you have a job, you're still able to kind of have a separation between your work and your life with your job. When you start to have a business, there's a stronger form of attachment with you and your business. It's hard to separate it, especially if you're starting as a solo founder, a solopreneur, or even if you're a founder, a co founder in a small team. It's really, really hard because the business relies on its founders. The business, as you're starting it, will rely heavily on you. And that's a huge responsibility because basically whatever you risk, whatever capital that you risk with your business, if you don't move, your business doesn't move. So that's all on you. Whereas in a corporation, you have HR, you have finance, you have accounting, you have so many supporting teams that you could just focus on your job, your role, and allow people, everyone else to, do their thing, clock in, clock out. But when you start to have a business, that's all on you. And are you really ready for that? Right? I mean, what do you think, Fush?
This is actually my favorite part in here. The separation of work and life in corporate is much more established than if you have a business, right? And you've experienced this, Mooch, for sure. And I experienced it. And, freedom and boundaries are two separate things, right? They're not the same thing. Freedom and boundaries. In last episode, we talked about the freedom of time, right? The freedom that if you have a business, there's flexibility. There's flexibility, but sometimes there's no boundaries, right? And it can spill over the business stuff, can spill over to personal. You work 24/7 sometimes, and it's totally different.
Especially because, for example, even if you have the worst job in the world and you're on vacation, let's imagine we're in Japan, we're on vacation, your boss calls you during your vacation leave and says, "Why haven't you sent the report or whatever?" Right? And you send the report and you're done. But when you have a business, the accountability and ownership, if your team doesn't do their work, you're gonna think about that constantly when you're traveling, when you're on vacation, you're constantly on your phone monitoring. But when you're an employee, your main ownership and accountability would just be within the task or within the job function that you serve. So it's really, really different, right?
The boundaries are clear. And then one thing is also because entrepreneurs, they're paid based on value and not based on time. I always think about this. It's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. One perfect example: if you work for your business, let's say one whole week, and you just slept 2 hours a day in that one whole week, right? You did all these product stuff, marketing, sales. But if it doesn't have a value for your customers, if the customer finds no value in that work, you don't get paid for that, right? You don't get compensated. But at work, sometimes you just have to clock in, clock out, right? Spend the time. You still get your wages, your salary. And it's if you're an entrepreneur, you always think about what value can you give to your customer so that you get rewarded. Sometimes if you're an employee, just do your thing, do what's needed. Sometimes they don't even have to go be above and beyond, right? But they're still gonna get compensated. So it's totally different setup.
When you're an entrepreneur, you are accountable to the customer, you are accountable to your employees, you are accountable to the society or the community that you host your business in, and you're accountable to your investors if ever you took investor money. So, and you're accountable to yourself. So, these are like five humongous group of people that you are accountable to apart from the operations of your business. So it's really a huge responsibility. And because in a corporate career, or if you are a VP, an AVP, like a vice president, a director, you're accountable to your group, to your bosses and all of that. But you also have the safety net of that whole entire organization running with you.
Right. You mentioned about boss, Mooch. Last episode we talked about not having a boss, right? If that's the one of the perks of putting up a business is your own boss, right? But when you put up a business, I think you're gonna miss not having a boss. Because sometimes if you have a boss, at least someone's gonna help you, right? If you have a boss, at
Yes.
least you can share this pain with someone. And sometimes the accountability, you share accountability. You have your own business, you're your own boss. You're good luck.
Yeah. That's super true. And you never appreciate your boss, even if you have the worst boss in the world, you never truly appreciate them until it's you who need to make those hard decisions. And
And
if
that's why
it once it's you who's going through that stressful pressure activity, right?
And that's why a lot of founders, right, they go through some mental health challenges. Right? It's a very common trend, especially in the US, right? Because even though you have people helping you out here and there, the accountability, like you said, it's just so much. Even if you have a team, right? There's so much accountability, there's so much pressure around it. And last point that I wanted to make here, which for founders, entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs, it's deeply personal to them, right? That's why it's hard to set the boundaries because Your business is deeply personal to you, whether you founded it from scratch, right? You put all your heart in it. And I think that's why you see a lot of business owners in, dancing in TikTok. You see those meme small business owners like don't want to show themselves, but they kind of, yeah, I mean, not forced to, but they just do everything because it's deeply personal to them. They wanted to share their authentic stories, right? It's just really part of their life. That's why it's hard to set that boundaries.
No business operates in a vacuum. You're even if you don't have a boss, you don't report to a boss or you don't report to, you will still report to the government. You'll still pay your taxes. You'll still report to your customer. You also kind of report to your employees and the community. So it's a different form of boss. You don't have the boss in the traditional sense, but you're still accountable to other people. I'm curious, Fushli, is there other stuff that you see, other reasons that you think why people should stay in their corporate careers?
Another reason is your industry still rewards tenure. Going through your career is an investment. Even though they say that, the traditional career ladder is not here anymore. I think it's just changing. I think it's just shifting. But for some, there's still really a career ladder, right? You can still get promoted. You will still, get that raise, as long as you're patient, and as long as you keep invested in learning, right? So I think your industry still rewards tenure. That's why you have to consider staying in your corporate career.
Companies with really, really good retirement plans, like the multinationals, would usually have like a percentage of your salary. Like if you work in a company for 20 years, then whatever your current salary upon retirement, that would be times how many years that you work in a company. Usually that's how it works. So if your industry or your company rewards how long you get to work in that company or that industry, then it's actually a really good win for you because then you could just focus on your profession. You could just focus on your job and you get the long-term wins of staying in that company or that industry, right?
Right. Yeah. Experience compounds, right? Just like investment. Especially in the age of AI, we've heard news where they're hiring more experienced professionals than fresh grads. Why? Because these experienced professionals, they already have the foundational knowledge and they just have to be trained on AI, right? So let's say, for example, if you're in tech, you already know how data model works, you already know how databases works, right? The machine learning, the basic stuff, and you just have to be trained on generative AI or whatever AI in there. And it's more opportunities too, right, for experienced professional because that experience, whether it's rewarded right now, financially, like what you said earlier, if you reach maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the company, right? Some companies, they provide compensations or bonuses in that one. But even not, those are still experience. Those are just investments for you. You've met people, you've gained credibility, and you never know if you move to a different company, that will materialize, right? You'll get higher pay. It's an investment. That's why here at Lumpia Bytes, I'm really really excited always when if you have a guest, right? We spotlight their career story because those career, right? They've invested a lot on those, and that's their like bread and butter. And we love highlighting those career stories because they are investment.
Exactly. And actually, if you're able to strategize your career really, really well, you could actually make the same amount as with setting up a small business, right? Especially if you've been able to find like a really rare niche that only you could serve with your career or with your profession, particularly in tech, right? If there is a scarcity with your role, your profession, you could usually command a higher compensation or more rewards.
So, Mooch, we're down to our last reason why they should stay in their corporate career. What's our fifth reason and why they should stay in their corporate career in this AI world?
There's probably like there's probably like 99 million reasons why people should stay in their jobs. But for today, probably one last reason that we could talk about is AI could actually make your corporate job a lot easier. For example, if you're a developer and you're constantly fixing bugs, can you fix bugs at the scale of your enterprise? If you are a tester, doing QA, is there something that you could systematize that could allow you to give bigger impact to your company and not just to
Mm.
your team or to your feature or to your function? If you're a marketer, there are so many tools out there that's available for you to use in your arsenal to give you a bigger impact in what you're doing, and that you're not just doing the same thing over and over again like you're an insane person, but that you could iterate much faster and deliver impact and KPIs much better. So if you're like an optimist in this age of AI, and especially in how to apply AI to your job and to your profession, it's a lot of opportunity to deliver, to be more competitive, and to deliver greater impact to your company, to your corporation. And you might even get a promotion if you do that, right? You can actually amplify what you're already doing and deliver greater impact to the business in the age of AI.
If we're trying to be objective, um, it should really be making our job easier. Let's take, for example, very concrete example, and I think everyone, experienced this: email writing, right? Sometimes, if you're in corporate, writing an email to an angry customer, to a very difficult executive, to your peers, or to anyone, just in general, writing email sometimes it could take you like an hour to just draft an email, right? But now with AI, you can draft that easily, right? I think everyone felt the value of AI just, you know, with email writing. So it should make our job easier in corporate. But I think, it's really just depends on the company whether they're using those efficiencies wisely, right? But objectively speaking, the job should be easier.
Definitely operationally, it's going to be easier. I'll give you another example on that. Before, a report usually takes people about 8 hours to do, 8 human hours to do. And for a big company report, like for example, a report that 10 people do, 8 times 10 people, that's 80 hours. But actually, just recently, it took me 3 hours to set up a process and an agentic workflow that allows us to pull data from different sources and to put that in the same email and allow us to generate the report in less than 30 minutes now. So it's definitely going to be easier and faster. The challenge here now is how do we reach outcomes much better, which is actually really, really exciting for people who want to get promoted, right?
Yeah.
And I think in a corporation, especially now in the AI age, there's no better place to get the best training because companies are investing a lot in training. And when you leave your company or you leave your corporation and spend for your own training, that could cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Whereas in a big company or a big corporation, they'll train you for free. I mean, it's part of the job perks, right? So you'll get a lot of training and use cases and practice practice scenarios where you could build those skills in the age of AI. And those skills that you get to practice in your company, in your corporate job, can be of high value when you get out of it.
Yeah, totally agree. So, where does this leave us, Mooch? Right? Last episode, we gave them 5 reasons to start their business in the age of AI. And today, we gave them 5 reasons to stay in their corporate career. To our audience, if you're feeling a little confused right now, should I be an employee? Should I be an entrepreneur? What if what if that's the wrong question? What if the people who thrive in the AI era aren't the ones who's choosing sides at all, right? So in our next episode, we're going to explore a different way of thinking about careers, work, and opportunity in the AI era. It's the rise of a new kind of professional, and it might completely change how you think about your future.
Bye, guys. I hope you guys didn't get a headache in thinking about this too much.